Didn't know you had to do the tidying up here as well.
Julian said, choose music if it's appropriate. So given we've heard about all the dramatic changes in the media landscape over the last 20 years, and we're experiencing a real radio resurrection at the moment, hopefully you got the pun of our song there. The title of our presentation is What Next for the RAB? And I guess in order to look forward as to where the RAB goes next, it's probably helpful to take a look back to 1992, to the birth of the RAB, when these two hip young gunslingers were plying their trade at TMD Cara and McCann Erickson. And as an industry, radio had seen a 50% increase in its audience over the previous 10 years. But its revenues remained resolutely stuck below 3%. And radio remained resolutely stuck in the regional press team.
Now, we're not going to carry on the gags with the visual theme, by the way. Now, it's important to remember that, that this is a world where external influences on media, on agency understanding of media, consisted mainly of media owners trading their products with agency buyers. The radical concept behind the RAB was to create an organisation that was on the side of the customer, helping to educate them about the real potential of radio and how best to exploit it. The funders and founders of the RAB acknowledged that by simply helping people to understand the reality of radio, they would be more confident in committing their advertising budgets to the medium. Within this, it was recognised that there were three specific areas where enhancing understanding would reap the greatest benefits for the industry. These were promote the scale of the medium and the unique relationship that listeners have with their favourite stations, demonstrate the effectiveness of the medium for advertisers, and finally, showcase the creative potential of the medium and encourage best practice. Let's review some of the approaches the RAB took to address these. Now, in terms of scale and relationship, the challenge that the RAB faced here was that in 1992, inhabitants of Adland didn't particularly listen to commercial radio, and therefore they perceived the medium to be small and irrelevant to all consumers. The launch of radio in 1993, I think, was a landmark and enabled the RAB to start promoting credible and robust data about audience size for the first time. However, crucially, whoops, can I go back? Can I go back one? Thank you. Crucially, this demonstration of audience scale was supplemented by qualitative consumer insight to highlight the relationship that people have towards radio and the value they place on it. And this led to one of the most famous charts in the history of media, in our view. Radio is closer to me. And I think it's extraordinary to think now that this was genuinely revolutionary in media planning terms. Agency planners like us two, lapped it up. We really can testify to that. We used it all of the time. So the combined effect of these efforts meant that in the space of a year or so, commercial radio had been placed firmly on the map. However, despite these advances, advertisers lack confidence about radio's power to influence consumers on their behalf. In response, the RAB led a trawl of best radio case studies across the ad industry, which culminated in the publication of Wireless Wisdom and eventually populated the case study database on the first media marketing website, RAB Online, in 1994. I think we can all agree it has wonderful design values. And this was later supplemented by a landmark piece of multi-advertiser cross-media research, the Radio Multiplier Study, which quantified the uplift effect of radio when used alongside TV. Together, these initiatives help generate belief in the influence and cost-effectiveness of the medium for advertisers.
I do have to say, Mark, with you standing behind there and me standing here, we do look like a poor man's version of the Pet Shop Boys, but anyway. As Mark said, the RAB really addressed some of the issues around effectiveness, some of the issues around the scale of the medium, and really began to land that with agencies. But then as now, creative was a real issue for the industry and a real challenge, but there was great creative potential, as a number of our speakers have shown today. And I think the RAB began to do things like, what it began to do really was celebrate great creative. Things like the Hall of Fame CD on the cutting-edge compact disc that had just come out at the time. Things like the Ariel Awards began to celebrate radio creative. So we just want to show you an example, or play you an example of a great ad from back in that time that really demonstrated that the RAB began to have an impact on the quality of creative and showcased it to the industry.
Yes, baby.
A gravy chips, a fish and chips, a special fish and chips, a smoked sausage and chips, a pizza and chips, a meat and potato pie and chips, a mince pie and chips, a hamburger and chips, steak pie and chips, chicken and chips, fish cake and chips, spring roll and chips and a pickled egg.
Whoa.
And a can of Bars Diet Iron Brew and chips.
Calorie control only as part of a calorie control diet. Right, baby?
Bet you're all starving now, aren't you?
There you are.
I'm supposed to be presenting some serious points here, please. All of that resulted in fantastic growth across a decade for the medium. If you can see the growth of ad revenue there by the different media across those years, we had audiences growing at a phenomenal rate. We had, as you heard earlier, lots and lots of new radio brands coming into the market and interest from agencies, and we had RAB initiatives supporting all of that. And that saw 10 years of growth. But that was then, and I want to bring you bang up to date. That's one of my favourite bands, they're the Rizzle Kicks. So that's bringing you up to date in 2012. And as you can see with the infographic there, it's a completely different market. It's a completely different market because effectively for the first 10 years of the RAB, there was no online revenue. What that's meant now is 30% of marketing spend goes online. And actually, that growth of online has really changed the way that consumers interact with content. And as you heard from Dominic, it's really changed the way marketers can connect and track their audiences. And that means that there's a real challenge about how different media are perceived and how they present themselves. And that's the context we find ourselves in today.
So bearing all of this in mind, we believe that there are 3 specific areas where focusing our efforts will reap the greatest benefits for the sector in 2012. And the sharpest of you who have been paying full attention might recognise some of these. Because essentially, they're the same areas that the RAB initially concentrated on in 1992. The crucial difference, though, is that the way we deal with these has evolved to reflect the developments in the market. Now, when we consider the status of radio's audience health, it's important to note that the increasing challenge for primary time from the internet hasn't actually dented radio's audience. Radio achieved record audience levels in 2011. And IPA Touchpoints 4 embellishes this by highlighting that radio remains the second biggest medium after TV in people's lives, taking up a quarter of the media day. However, we still have the problem that many media planners and brand managers don't listen to commercial radio. So our challenge, therefore, is to give them a clear shortcut to understand the scale and importance of the medium for today's listeners. That is, Britain loves radio, a theme that runs through all RAB activity. But within that, it's important to illustrate what this means for advertisers. And last year's emotional multiplier research, did we mention it was award-winning, demonstrated how, of the 3 media we measured, radio, TV and online, radio generates the highest levels of happiness amongst consumers, which makes them more effective, more receptive to advertising and helps them engage more with ads within the medium. And in an age when advertising is increasingly attempting to engage with the emotions, that's vital to understand. In terms of effectiveness, and to frame what we've been doing, you have to acknowledge that online has fundamentally changed advertisers' expectations of accountability from individual media. Now, to date, Radio Gauge has been the radio industry's response to this challenge, a large-scale, ongoing radio campaign effectiveness measurement tool free for the advertiser. And it's measured over 500 campaigns since its launch in January 2008. And our analysis suggests that actually it is having a powerful effect in building confidence and encouraging investment in the medium. But there are wider challenges for radio now in the form of econometric modelling. increasingly, these are playing a dominant role in the media decision-making process. Yet, very few econometric models contain quality data relating to radio, making it difficult to predict fairly what the medium will add to the media mix. We as an organisation understand that in this environment, there's an onus on the media owner to help fill any information gaps, which means that to further radio's calls, we need to supply comms planners with free access to relevant, searchable, and high-quality data when they need it. In which context, we're pleased to announce today the launch of Radio Gauge Predict, a new online customer tool which allows planners to access learning and insight generated from the aggregated data gathered across all of the campaigns measured in Radio Gauge. Now, we're a bit time restricted, so I'm going to give you a very whistle-stop tour now, and due to some technological challenges we face with the venue, in the best traditions of Blue Peter, it's from a video that we prepared earlier, but I have to narrate it at a bit of a pace, so bear with me, please. Here we go. So, here's the homepage for Radio Gauge Predict. It allows you to access 3 strands of radio effectiveness data. We'll start by reviewing radio's uplift effect by product sector. Firstly, we choose the relevant product sector we want to review results for. Let's have a look at retail. Next, we choose a relevant campaign objective. Let's explore those campaigns focusing on price promotions. And finally, we choose a relevant measure, in this instance, brand consideration, which gives us this data. Brand consideration, 32% higher amongst those exposed to radio advertising compared to those that weren't. It's easy to export the data as PowerPoint or PDF, as we show here, and back to the homepage. Now let's explore radio's effect alongside other media. Keeping with the retail price promo theme, let's have a look at how radio works alongside press. And we'll stick with brand consideration as our measure. So across the 27 campaigns that match our criteria, brand consideration was 40% higher amongst those exposed additionally to radio compared to press alone. Returning to the homepage again, this time let's review the best performing ads. Again, we can select ads from a relevant product sector. This time let's have a look at FMCG. And within that, let's explore the most involving ads. Here, Predict provides us with the top 5 scoring ads for this measure and provides the audio for the top 3, which you can play or download to include in a presentation, along with any of the data, should you require it. So, I did promise a whistle-stop tour, and that is it. But I hope it's whetted your appetite to find out more. And so the first of 2 things we're going to ask you to do today, as a result of today, is that when you get back to the office, please go to the RAB website, have a play with Radio Gauge Predict. We're confident there's something relevant in there for every campaign. And we're confident that by providing all comms planners with relevant radio effectiveness data, which allows them to recommend radio using to clients confident in the knowledge of its likely returns, Radio Gauge Predict will be transformational in terms of how the medium is planned and perceived.
Thanks, Mark.
And so will this presentation when it changes.
So we're very excited to deliver Radio Gauge Predict today, and as Mark says, that'll really help the comms planning process. The other area of challenge for us, and the other thing that the RAB is addressing head-on this year, is the creative potential of the medium. We've heard brilliant ads today, and our drive really is to get more of those. And that's behind some of the work that we're doing in the whole area of creativity. So we've got a partnership with D&AD. That manifests itself in a number of ways. If you go to D&AD's website, there's a whole area devoted to inspirational audio. I'd really urge you to check that out. There's some great stuff in there. Secondly, we're running practical advice and practical training in creative development for radio with agencies. McCann Erickson under Chris are taking part in that, as are a number of other agencies. We've also teamed up with the Industry Bible campaign. We run a regular private here column that showcases the best work that's coming out, and we're also a supporter of radio category at the Campaign Big Awards. But today, the other thing that we're very excited about launching is our new free mobile app, Love Radio Ads. This has been designed with our partners at Propeller, and we're really excited about it. It takes radio into places, or radio advertising into places that it's not been able to go before. You simply have to download it into your smartphone for free. Have I said free a couple of times now? in either the Android or the App Store. I don't often urge people to take a mobile phone out in a presentation, but if you can do it today or if you can get a signal on the way out, please urge you to download it. You can search by category, you can search by agency, you can search for the best radio ads, best in class, and we really hope it serves as a source of inspiration for people trying to get the best radio advertising.
So that concludes our brief tour of RAB history and explains our latest initiatives. But what next for the RAB? Well, one thing's for sure, the media world continues to evolve at pace, and smart mobile devices are predicted to reach critical mass penetration of 50% by the end of this year. Like the growth of the internet, I think we're all on a learning curve to understand how mobile phones will change the way people access and relate to traditional media content and what role they can play in combination within a mixed media plan. With 17% of adults and a third of 15 to 24s currently listening to radio through their mobile phone, and with tens of millions of station-specific mobile apps already downloaded, like Dominic, we believe that radio is better positioned than most media to help advertise optimise the benefits of this burgeoning platform. So we're currently embarking on an exciting new research project to explore the potential of this relationship, and we aim to publish results from this in the autumn, so that's something to watch out for.
Okay, so despite seismic change across the industry in the last 20 years, we have seen a real resurrection in radio. There's the resurrection theme again. We know, scary thought though it may be, or exciting thought though it may be, that things are only going to get more complex as we go forward. But one thing we can be confident of is that the RAB will still be there, as Steve Hatch kindly said, to make complex issues around the industry more simple for customers, so that we can all continue to celebrate the power of this unique and enduring medium and help you as advertisers and customers to get the most out of it. So thank you very much.
Thanks.